20th of the 11th 2024, and there are very many F1 threads at which we need to pull. Ralf Schumacher has clapped back at Checo Perez's dad in a very stealthy way. Again, reminiscent of some of Helmut Marko's comments in the past around Checo Perez and Yuki Tsunoda. Lando Norris has chimed in on Checo Perez too. So too has Joe Saywood on the Missed Apex podcast. Johnny Herbert has talked about British bias or lack thereof. Damon Hill going away, and so too may Martin Brundle and David Croft, apparently. Toto Wolff has had some things to say as well, hasn't he? Saying of Christian Horner that he reckons Horner's disrespected his family and his wife. And that, of course, is around the conflict of interest comments made many moons ago. Let's talk about Ralf first and foremost, because Checo Perez is going into a dodgy period, isn't he? A very important period as far as his journey. No, his career as a Formula One driver, underperformance has been his lot. Not insubstantial underperformance has been his lot season to date. He has been nowhere, and in stark contrast to what the Mexican Minister of Defense represented, let's say, circa 2021. Was that chap not instrumental in deciding which way the silverware went that year? Brilliant drives at Turkey, a god-tier defensive showing at the final race in Abu Dhabi. Checo Perez was once upon a time super good. He has not been that this year, however, failing to get out of Q1 a gazillion times, getting beat by Logan Sargent a gazillion times, who, by the way, was driving himself a Williams, a proper SH1T box. This makes no sense. So Red Bull find themselves in a dilemma, right? Do they look at one of the young, hungry new drivers, a Colapinto, let's say? Do they do that? Is that the move? Bearing in mind the opportunity cost of missing out on the next Maximilian Verstappen will be substantial. It sounds like that's where they might be headed. What Checo Perez doesn't need, however, notwithstanding his substantial sponsorship that he brings in, anywhere between 15 and 20 million US dollars each and every single year, depending on who you speak to. What he doesn't need is for old man, his father, Checo Perez, is senior, to be chiming in and talking all sorts of nonsense, because Antonio Perez Garibay, he came in and said this of Ralf Schumacher, who in the very recent past, over the past couple of weeks, has been not too complimentary about his son, and specifically his son's chances of driving for Red Bull in 2025. Here's what Perez's dad had to say. The Ralf Schumacher, I don't know who he is. I don't know if he knows who he is. Yesterday he was a man. Is he a woman? I don't know. Maybe he's in love with my son. Techie, eh? Hate language, any? Homophobia, any? Probably all of the aforementioned. But Ralf Schumacher's clapped back. He said, you know what, if Checo Perez was my son, I would be as defensive of him as has been his dad. However, what he probably wants to focus on is his son's performance, because that's the topic of the day. That's the reason why everybody's talking about Checo Perez going into the latter stages of this season. But we know of Antonio Perez Garibay, Checo's father, that he can be emotional. Again, I can't confirm nor deny this categorically, but that reminds me of sentences, statements that have come out the mouth of Helmut Marko. You remember that he attributed incorrectly Checo Perez's lack of focus to his Mexican heritage not long, did he not? Techie. So too did Helmut Marko talk about Yuki Tsunoda, saying that he lacks focus, that he is too emotional. Now, xenophobia et al. Is all wrapped up into that. But did Ralf Schumacher leverage those things? Did he say, you know what, Checo Perez's father, I will see you that hate language and I will raise you this? I feel like he's done a bit of a stealth diss there. Very, very clever, very, very techie. But some say that two wrongs do not make a right. Oh, and by the way, Lando Norris has chimed in an interview with The Race on Checo Perez, saying the moment that he realised that by dint of Checo Perez's not insubstantial underperformance, that Red Bull weren't even going to be a challenge for McLaren for the Constructors' Championship this year. Oh, the humanity. Everybody chiming in on Checo Perez, indeed dancing on that fella's soon-to-be grave. Joe Saywood has chimed in on the Mixtape Apex podcast too. Again, F1 accredited journalist even. He said of Checo Perez that Colapinto is indeed Christian Horner's intention to sign him for 2025. Sorry, Mexico. I know it's sad, but this is what's going to happen. Sadly, all realities in Formula One aren't happy ones. And here's why that's the truth. I think if we're connecting the F1 dots, lest we forget that apophenia can be a thing sometimes in F1, but sometimes there is no smoke without fire. Here's what Franco Colapinto brings: youth, charisma, the ability to work a room, and most notably Carlos Slim, the man who sponsors one Checo Perez to the tune of 15 to 20 million US dollars per annum. He was said that he'd lift and drop that sponsorship onto Franco Colapinto, and that has to mean something. Checo Perez, one of his key strengths and advantages is the fact that he sells his name, sells a lot of energy drinks in North America and South America, Mexico, of course. That has to count for something. But Franco Colapinto would be that plug. In appointing him in all his youth and exuberance, they lose none of those financial resources in real time. And that, ladies and gentlemen, has to count for something. If I were a betting man, Franco Colapinto will be sat in that Red Bull Racing team alongside three soon-to-be four-time champion Maximilian Verstappen as soon as the 2025 season. Oh, and by the way, Toto Wolff has accused Christian Horner of disrespecting him and his family. It all goes back to the Business F1 magazine, who printed an article alluding to the fact that there had been a conflict of interest between Toto and Susie Wolff. What does that mean? That means they alleged that Susie Wolff was sharing details that Toto Wolff shouldn't know. That again, by dint of her role with the F1 Academy, that she would come into information courtesy of the FOM, the guys and girls with whom she was working, that she'd shared with her husband Toto Wolff. Oh, and by the way, there were no proof of that then. There is no proof of that infringement of conflict of interest now. However, the FIA, being the FIA, suffering from regulatory capture, being poor as far as their ability to institute for the rules and regulations in a way that's consistent and fair across the board, did what the FIA always do, and they went to work, didn't they? They issued a statement saying, we are going to investigate this forthwith, meet it with the full power of the regulatory body. What are they doing? How can they issue that statement without some evidence? How can they issue that statement as a function of the Business F1 magazine's article? Remember, for the avoidance of doubt, that all publications journalistically are created equal, but some are created more equal than others. The Business F1 magazine is associated with Bernie Ecclestone, and again, there is agency within that. Nobody's going to hold them out to be the BBC or any bastion of journalistic integrity, not today nor ever. And so for the FIA to react in the way that they did on the back of that article published by that publication smacks statement even. 8 team principals issued a statement. One was missing. He had a name, and his name was Christian Horner. Here's what Toto Wolff had to say about that, because it gets techie here on in. Ladies and gentlemen of the F1 jury, it does get very techie. Here's what Toto Wolff in an interview with The Guardian had to say. He says, I can take a lot, and again, this is all under the umbrella heading of mental health. Here's what Toto Wolff had to say. I can take a lot of SH1T. I'm used to it now being part of the F1 circus. But if your wife is being dragged into it, into the conflict that she has nothing to do with, and her reputation is as hence up until this moment been immaculate. That's where the fun stops, says Toto Wolff. But the response was great from all of the team principals except one, and he had a name. His name was Christian Horner. I didn't make a single phone call to any team. Fred took it in his hands and said this was so unfair. Investigating Susie Wolff for an alleged conflict of interest without no evidence. That does not make sense. This is not fair. Gunther Steiner too took it upon himself. James Vowles, head of Williams, everybody jumped on it. They said it was not fair. They were already the only person not to sign the document in support of my wife, Susie Wolff, was one Christian Horner. Will suggest that Horner at the time tried to distance himself. He says, verbatim, as far as I understand, he said, I'm going to have my own interview with Sky Sports and I'm going to say I'm not part of it. I'm not signing the document, though. This was what Christian Horner said at the time. The other 9 teams said fine, but obviously he was advised that it wouldn't look great. The fact that there was a consensus that he would be part, he would not even be part of that statement. Toto continues, in the second iteration of the support document for Susie Wolff, my wife, he tried to get the word official in the statement. He wanted a note to say that no one among the team principals officially complained to the FIA. The other team said, fine, we do our declaration and you do yours. At the end, he signed it. Techie. So the signature was on there, but Christian Horner decided to go and have another interview, didn't he, with Sky Sports? And officially, I remember, if I remember correctly, he kept on saying that there was no official complaint made to the FIA. The insinuation, therefore, being that there was a complaint made to the FIA, that this was a conversation on the back of a meeting that was had with all the team principals, where Christian Horner said, allegedly, that Toto was talking about things, information that he shouldn't have been privy to. Allegedly, Christian Horner made that statement that no complaint had been made officially to the FIA. Now, if I were a betting man, I'm saying that Christian Horner would have had a conversation, allegedly, with somebody in the FIA unofficially. Otherwise, why would he have been so obsessed with this word, officially? Every syllable counts when it comes to the Red Bull Racing Team principle, is now and has always will be. The FI quickly, says The Guardian, closed its investigation, but will Wolff talk to Horner? Question. Wolff responds, no, I don't think you can rely on what Christian Horner says. I think my wife was collateral damage and lots of it was out of disrespect for her achievements as a female racing driver and as a contributor to change. It was also trying to cause SH1T to me by disrespecting my wife, diminishing the painful journey she went through to achieve what she did in and outside the car. Toto is right, says Joanna. Stand by your man or woman. MS says, return of the Christian Horny. Eddie says, I don't even know what you realise the joke that you made, BBC. This is, Eddie, me and you going to argue over that. I'm telling you, it's techie, but I don't. Michael, can be the BBC? No, you guys are killing me. Listen, here's the thing with this. Christian Horner, if he's calling into question the integrity of Susie Wolff, if indeed that's what he's doing, then that's completely unacceptable, right? But I'm not sure that Toto Wolff hasn't doubled down necessarily. Of course, he's got to back his wife. That is his wife. And if anybody's calling her integrity into question, stand by your woman 1000%. But I'm not sure that this wasn't Christian Horner, just Christian Hornering, just leveraging everything, racing hard as he always does and using every bit, scratching and clawing every sinew with a view to get advantage. I'm not sure it's as Toto Wolff characterises here. Techie, other folks having sound problems. Are you guys having sound problems? I hope not. It gets too techie. This is meant to be us going back and forth. Ralph's favourite network. You guys on the homophobia, I'm telling you, going to get me into trouble. Can build tractors at Mercedes now because all they build is SH. And this is the issue, Michael. Listen, this isn't the time for me to rag on Toto Wolff, but as a Sir Lewis Hamilton fan with my Sir Lewis cap very firmly on, I'm upset at Toto Wolff vicariously for the fact that Mercedes haven't given Sir Lewis Hamilton a car for the longest time. 2021 was 3 years ago now, and that's the last time when Lewis had himself a set of rules. Yeah, this is all good. I mean, of course, you've got to talk about mental health. It's a problem in the community globally around the world, and many particularly don't talk enough about it. But as an investor in the Wonder Fs, as a dude who only wants to talk about sporting excellence, who's invested in Sir Lewis Hamilton winning an unprecedented record-breaking 8th championship, per Christian Horner on Netflix's Drive to Survive, fix your fudging car, Toto Wolff. That's all that I care about. This is very noble, absolutely noteworthy, and we should be talking about this stuff more because people are losing their lives and livelihoods around this sort of thing. Of course, it's important, but this is the Cameron CC channel for a reason, and all we want to talk about is F1. I'm not looking for that type of advice from Toto, the boy who cried wolf, necessarily. But I digress. Listen, it's techie. We'll go a little bit longer today because I mean for this to be a community build, we're meant to be going back and forth and talking. Did we talk about Johnny Herbert? Did I miss out Johnny Herbert? I can't even remember. Go on, let's talk about Johnny, because he said of Damon Hill. He said not of Damon Hill necessarily, but he's talking about Brundle and Crofty. Forgive me if I've already touched on this. My memory is fading. Johnny Herbert said we might have to worry. This is concerning, the fact that Damon has left after 12 years of broadcasting history. His tenure was long. However, Herbert said of Damon Hill that Damon, on the back of his criticism that he's received from Max Verstappen fans all over the world, leveraging at that fella one-time champion in 1996, that he is communicating as a function of his British bias. Then that criticism of Max Verstappen, lest we forget, he said they were Dick Dastardly tactics, that sport is something that reveals character, not builds it. He went hard at Max Verstappen, and it was only to be expected that Max Verstappen's fans were going to clap back at him. The extent of the clap back, okay, so that gets techie. Is AB online ever warranted, ever justified? I don't think so. I think that's poor form, if I'm honest with you, especially since it is Damon and he's a one-time world champion. But again, internet warriors, these are the very murky waters in which we wade as at November of 2024. Here's what Herbert had to say. He said that if Damon's left, then Brundle and Crofty soon could leave. There is something called positive discrimination that exists within Sky Sports, meaning that of all new hires, 50% of them need to be women, 50% of them need to be men. And again, with that front and centre of mind, if Damon's left, then how long has Brundle got? How long has Crofty got? And again, are we going with journalistic integrity first up on the docket, first order priority? How much can those guys talk about a Max Verstappen or a Lewis Hamilton without falling victim of some online AV? Ladies and gentlemen, the world of F1 gets techier and techier by the second. And lest we forget that Herbert's already been sacked by Sky Sports F1. It feels like something of a cull, that all the old English guys are just one by one being forced out of their position. I think this is symbolic of something that's broader in media. You will have seen the combat sports fans are all around the world. HBO no longer cover boxing, so too Showtime. There is a cost. These guys get paid really, really well. There is a cost as far as the production putting on these shows each and every single time. And if the upside is limited, then they need to reconsider their production suite and or portfolio even. Are they going to continue to get rid of these guys, or are they going to even continue to provide the service that they provide now? Is it worth it? Or are the likes of Peter Windsor putting on better shows? Do you defer more to Tomo F1 or an Aldous or a Quick Stop F1 more than you even do the internationally syndicated broadcast, for which I pay £90 each and every single month? There is a paradigm shift as far as the value that new media is providing as versus old media, and some of these heads are going to be cold because of that. Oh, the humanity. It gets techier and techier each and every single time. Benzi, you're a proper legend. Turtle, it's the same as the drivers. Everyone on the out with the old and in with the new. Turtle, it's a common theme, eh? A thread that runs throughout everything that F1's doing. Cam, you ready for the best race of the year? Go on then, let's talk about Vegas. It's only right. Apparently, there is a Las Vegas Grand Prix this weekend. And I don't know how I feel about it. Look, I was super negative going into the race last year. And the racing gods made a mug of me, forced me to eat each and every single one of my words and their syllables. Like, it was a brilliant race, eh? I think my point of contention as far as Vegas is that it's a bit of a dip. Like, the infrastructure is different, is it not? This is something that F1, the FOM have invested in massively. They need to make a lot of money, and they did make a lot of money on this Grand Prix last year, but there is an equal and opposite downside impact on all of the Las Vegas residents. You would have seen on Kim Illman's video where he's talking to residents about the revenue that they've lost, business owners in Vegas, that because of the infrastructure and the build and the track and all of the things that come with the Las Vegas Grand Prix, that tons and tons of Las Vegas residents are losing revenue hand over fist. There needs to be a symbiosis. F1 puts forth itself as an organisation that holds near and dear to its heart sustainability, that the territories, that the areas of the world that it goes into to have these races is meant to uplift the communities, not run roughshed over them. Surely, am I expecting too much here? And that's my principal point of contention as far as the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Needs to be better at the sustainability they claim to hold so close to their hearts. It's all casino results there. Yeah, but there's also small business owners. Go and watch the Kim Illman video, the latest one, and he interviews some of them in real time. It was awesome, Andre. I don't disagree with you. It wasn't a bad race. Turtle says, I've always wanted to go to Singapore or Vegas. Yeah, Singapore would be good. Singapore would be good. Are you talking about for the tracks, Turtle? I've got a friend who's going out to Singapore next year. Singapore would be a good. I've always wanted to go to Singapore. I've been to Vegas before, and I don't know. I went for Mayweather Pacquiao weekend, and it was incredible, but it was a bit. It lacked in soul a tad for me, in my humble opinion. Benzi said, "Has Crofty ever donned an Elvis outfit with a cape?" I think he was wearing He was wearing a shirt. He keeps going on about it on the Sky Sports F1. Some sequin shirt. Mate, he can wear whatever he wants. All I care about is him calling the Grand Prix properly and giving these drivers, when they put forth excellence, I want Crofty to give it the proper vocal narrative. Deserving. Like, it needs to be commensurate. Every race would be amazing, says Andre. Kim Illman works hard in extra. He does. Kim Illman does not mess about. Like, he's there every single Grand Prix as near as makes no difference, taking these pictures. And he goes hard in the paint as far as the content creation. Like, probably the hardest working one, sans Peter Windsor. Do you know what I mean? He's there each and every single time. Props to Kim Illman. I enjoy watching his content. One of only a few content creators that I'm watching these days, to be honest. My dint of my time or lack thereof. Vegas proved me wrong as well. The race was brilliant, but yes, residents and those that bought tickets lost. The way the track was covered off was disgraceful, and they're doing it again, aren't they? Have you seen this, Remco? Like, lots of walls and like black wallpaper blocking out. The way that Vegas is structured, right? There's loads of like bridges that you can, and like restaurants even, that if you just book a meal that you can basically watch, you know what I mean? You'll be able to get a vista of the Grand Prix as it plays out. And the FOM's task, should they choose to accept it, is to make sure that all of these free vistas, free gratis POVs are blocked off, and that's where it gets a bit techy. They got to do it that way though, otherwise people will book a seat at X restaurants as opposed to buying the like thousands of pounds worth of tickets. I'd go to Interlagos, says Michael. Interlagos, absolutely. I should have gone a couple of years back. Interlagos is premium, right? Imagine like the history. Senna 91 and bloody 2007 Hamilton, 2008 Hamilton, 2021, like, oh, Interlagos, mate. I really want to drive around that track. How you doing, Denise? I hope you're good. We're going a bit long today, like not too long. I'll go over 10-15 minutes, but I just want to rather than a neatly packaged 8-minute video where I'm talking about, oh, the humanity and going back and forth. I just want to converse and go back. My first race was San Marino. Oof, Johan. You know, to tell you the honest truth, I've never been live. I've driven more times around Silverstone than I'd care to mention. But I've never attended I've been to loads of Red Bull home runs, and like I really enjoy those. Seeing F1 cars driving on the road, the juxtaposition, like civilian territory where I drive my car in Milton Keynes, seeing actual F1 cars being driven in anger around. Oh, it was incredible. I do like myself a cheeky Red Bull home run, but honest truth, I've never I've never been to a race. Michael says there is a burner account. I've seen it and I've seen thumbnails. What are you gonna do, Michael? Like what are you? He's clearly been inspired, and some say that duplication is the best form of flattery. I haven't got enough bandwidth to get cheesed off about people like being inspired. I mean, if you can do it better than me, then crack on, mate. Do you know what I mean? Ultimately, the algorithm is unlike the one that F's ultimately a meritocracy, and if he's or she's producing, I've never watched one of their videos, but if they're producing better content than me, then what am I gonna do? Like, have at it. Then I need to up my game. What did you eat today, Pappy? Says Michael. My God, I don't know what you're on about, Jeff. Vegetables. Trying to be healthy. Drink lots of water and eat loads of vegetables. I saw Monaco Grand Prix in 1968 from a flat overlooking casino. Oof. It belonged to a mate. Oof, Paul. I do not hate that for a second. One day, the plan is for me and my mates to get a yacht to Monaco. In the end, like 30 years from now, whenever I can save up my pennies. The sound, well, yeah, the noise is incredible, Johan. It's proper. It's the noise of the F1 cars. See, new American driver won Macau. Yeah. Ugo did. I was listening to somebody talking about Macau, saying that it's devalued. Joe Saywood, once again on the Missed Apex podcast. Go and subscribe to them if you're not subscribed already. Saying that it's a bit of a put it on poll, and then 9 times out of 10 you're gonna win. It's yeah, Michael, we don't need to give them any more. If they're copying me, then I'm not gonna give them any free promotion or marketing on my channel. Never attended Silverstone Grand Prix. Oh, the humanity, says Remco. Went to Spa and Barcelona. Try it, mates. An unforgettable experience. I will go one day. Well, I will go one day. One day in the near future, hopefully we'll be able to convene at a Silverstone or a Spa Francorchamps. That's my dream. But as we continue to build the community, it's due 100%. I might try and get to one of Nash's holding a quick stop live soon, and I might try and get out to that. But I'm too much of a hermit at the moment. It might be visual, it might be AI. There are a lot of AI channels popping up at late, and there as far as new media, which of course I'm a part of, quasi, like there are a lot of AI channels that are just they're in it to win it as far as the financial resource. The F1 content creation space, you will see, is doing one of these. As more people realize this, you will have more AI content channels just trying to cream the top of the financial resource without necessarily putting the hard work in. And as we go forward over the next 2-3 years, the space will continue to do one of these, and it will be more and more saturated. And unfortunately, there will be solid content creators, human ones, who fall by the wayside, right? They'll be crowded out, just the way it is. Survival of the fittest. On a long enough timeline, the survival rate always trends to zero. MSRS, come to Australia, Melbourne, the weather is beautiful. There's a specific way to say it's not Melbourne, is it? It's Melbourne. Yeah, I had a friend that used to live over there. I'll be over there at some point, MS. I will be there. Desktop says I don't like AI channels either. It feels too proselytizing. It's not the word. Predatory. Almost. Do you know what I mean? I don't like it. They cut out the part on the mistakes. Oh, I don't even know if I can talk about this, Eddie. They cut out the part on the Missed Apex podcast when Joe talked about receiving death from Perez fans, and he said that he doesn't pay attention. I saw it, Eddie. I saw it. I think Spanners did that quite deliberately, right? Because some of those comments were less. You saw what Spanners did. Spanners said, "Listen, I distanced myself from all of that stuff, and I think they did the right thing by taking that out, Eddie, because it was techie." Mr. Windsor, Cameron CC, goatiest to ever goated. Dinnies, you're a legend. Thank you so much on Fartika. You guys in the comments saying that listen, I know that I have that. Me and Windsor have that chemistry. He'll always 10-7 me, Will Windsor. But I think that's what makes the chemistry and the good conversations more importantly. Got to play devil's advocate, even though 9 times out of 10 I always agree with Peter. Like, I've got to play devil's advocate. And when you guys say goated, I can't be part of that equation. Not yet. One day, maybe when I grow up. But Windsor's just a different... Like, some of the times I'm talking to the chap and it's like... I just, where does he get, even on the stream today, you guys go and see his stream today. He was like, Mansell was racing Rob Wilson at Thruxton in 1978. No, it wasn't 1978, it was 1980. How, I am nowhere near, that's GOAT settings. I am nowhere near that chap for him to have this rich reserve of knowledge, not just F1 knowledge. I mean, motorsport knowledge. He's invested now in World Rally Champ. It's like when I'm every time Windsor says World Rally Championships, I'm like, oh, I don't know anything. I'm siloed. My knowledge is siloed in F1, and even then, it's nowhere near the breadth and depth of Windsor. When he can start talking about like 1978 at Thruxton, this is that lived experience, right? That sadly, I'm far too young to ever live up to that. Hopefully one day I'll get there. Andre says, you said get the best out of him. Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? Because we're so different but so similar. But no, I'm grateful ad infinitum to Windsor, and he is a master storyteller, isn't he, Venzi? So engaging. There is, I tell you what, I always say it to him, and I say it in our conversations, it's rare that you get that it's the symbiosis, the hybridization of that amount of knowledge and that ability to engage. Like, my missus will sit there and listen to Windsor tell his story, because he's he's a storyteller at heart, an F1 storyteller, just talking about the passion thing that he's loved, the thing that he's given his life to. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's got to, I don't know, he has a gift. Windsor lived it, so he doesn't need to let it 100% visual. I'll get there one day, though. I'm practicing in the background. One day I want to stump Windsor with a question that he doesn't. And that's my goal in life. One day. Absolute vacuum cleaner, you mean? Windsor, put it in the car with. Yeah, I do know that, Eddie. I've never asked Peter about that. Because you've got to, there is a diplomacy, eh? I mean, if somebody asked me about a traumatic incident in my life on camera, I told them to go and there's a relationship to build. I don't want anyone to come on the channel and feel like I'm taking advantage of them. Right? It's not in my psyche. Turk says, start a petition for F1 in Perth. Do it. I'm sure you wouldn't be the only one, Turtle. Knowledge and passion wrapped in together. Yeah, absolutely. Modern day, John. It's going to get techie. Go on then. Let's round off third base on this. Las Vegas Grand Prix. The timings are going to be all sorts of weird. Denise, you're a legend. Thank you so much. Far too kind. I appreciate you as always. Okay, so here's the schedule. Las Vegas. Let me talk about Las Vegas over the next 6 minutes or less. Las Vegas will get techie. I understand. I know we've all got different opinions. You guys have heard mine that last year I didn't think it was going to be a brilliant Grand Prix, but it was. The racing gods, as they tend to do sometimes, slapped me in my face and made me look like the mug that I am. I ate every single one of those words and their after syllables when I'd been disparaging about the track layout and the circumstance, the pop and the circumstance. And then ultimately it delivered massively. That doesn't mean to say there weren't issues last year. Mohammed Ben Sulayem barely. In fact, for a very short time there, he wanted to sabotage the whole operation, didn't he? He didn't want them to sign the track off as safe. Lest we forget, there were all these lastminute.com adjustments. Lest we forget too, there was Carlos Sainz and pothole gate. But for that pothole, you could argue that Carlos Sainz could be beating Charles Leclerc even 2-1 in the 3 championships that they've raced at Ferrari. It's going to get techie going into it, but there's a couple of things we need to consider. Scheduling is going to be difficult. I'm definitely going to be here 6 a.m. in the morning, 5:30 a.m. British Standard Time for both quali and the race. I would love to do free practice 1 and 2 and 3 like usual, because for the avoidance of doubt, the mantra of the channel, if there is an F1 car on track, then we will be talking to it, having these conversations. But this time, I might have to throw in the white towel. The time is murderous. It's like what FP1, I want to say, is like 1 a.m. and then FP is bonkers times. I will definitely try and do it, but it might get a bit techie. This one I might have to tap out. It's going to get a bit techie. Cheeky prediction from Remco. Ferrari will win, but it will be Sainz's revenge against that drain cover. Let's go. I would be here for that. I'd be celebrating that massively. You know what I mean? Okay, a couple of things that we want to consider. Temperatures are going to be chaos, super low as per usual in Las Vegas. What does that mean for the teams and the drivers? While looking after the tyres and getting those tyres into the optimal temperature window, particularly in qualifying, the all-important pace sessions, is going to be tricky. Tyres are the most important part of the car, the only part of the car that comes into contact with the ground. So bringing those tyres in this tech spec of car, this ground effect car, is always going to be important. Some attribute this mercurial tyre compound set to why we've seen a drop off in Lewis Hamilton's performance. That he's driving these cars and this tyre spec as if it were 2007, and it is not. And he's not the only one, Lewis Hamilton, who has had problems adjusting to this combination of tyre and technical specification of ground effect car. Pay attention to that. It will get techie. One final thing I want you to pay attention to. You guys have heard me destroy Charles Leclerc at every single opportunity. Not because he's a bad driver, but because he's a God tier 1. And moreover, keeps making mistakes of the unforced variety. Lest we forget, this time last year, he made 2 mistakes at the same bloody corner. It was turn 12. On the Friday night in Las Vegas, he did a sim race with the likes of friend of the channel, Dirk Chocolate, with the likes of Jamie Chadwick and others. There were a few others on there, weren't there? Ash Vanderlei was on there again, friend of the channel. During that, again, he was dominant, as you would expect from an F1 driver on a sim race. He was nailing it. They raced, by the way, for the avoidance of that, around the Las Vegas track. He was nailing it, far ahead, gapping Jamie Chadwick. Like he's God tier, as you would expect. Turn 12, however, he makes a mistake and spins the car again. Charles, being as quick as he is, was always going to catch up and then gap Jamie Chadwick. Goes on to win the celebrity sim race on the Friday. On the Sunday, however, at turn 12 again, was competing for the podium positions. After a God tier drive, by the way, what does Charles Leclerc do, aka modern day journalese? Mistake of the unforced variety, turn 12. Have a look out. I've already tweeted. If Charles Leclerc makes a mistake of the unforced variety at turn 12 again, I'm going to pull out what little hair I have left, because, ladies and gents, that would be just like modern day journalese, aka Charles Leclerc, to make the same mistake again and again and again. And that, of course, is his soft, vulnerable underbelly. As far as an F1 peddler, I'm going to check the times and hope it's that Turtle. I think you'll be all right if you're in ours. I think you might be okay. Charlotte Crash says visual. Mate, visual, I'm telling you, it's a bit techie. Let me read this one. Did we get amazing Danica monologues this week? Benzi didn't even do it. How to spot a reptilian shapeshifter. I think it's a travesty of justice that Damon Hill will be leaving the broadcast at the end of this year, and that Danica Patrick will still be there. Listen, I've got nothing against Danica Patrick, except for the fact that I pay £90 to Sky Sports F1, and I don't get a lot of value from her when she's on the broadcast. Very vanilla. Do you know what I mean? A lot of the words that come out of Danica Patrick's mouth, I already know. In stark contrast to Brundle, when he gets his explaining hands out and starts talking about contours and yaws and, do you know what I mean? And loads and all this other stuff. Like, there are levels as far as these broadcasters. There are indeed levels. Go on then. I will catch you. Same time, same place tomorrow. We'll try and go long this time tomorrow, 10 a.m. for another news video. Of course, each and every single time I have everything against Danica Patrick, says Andre. She's a controversial character, but a god-tier peddler, especially in IndyCar, some say. You know what I mean? Can't hold that against her. I mean, the space broadly is very dominated by males, is it not? And the fact that she's gotten that far and done that well, okay, so NASCAR wasn't a great success. The opposite, some might argue, indeed the antithesis. But in IndyCar, if she'd stayed there, people, motorsport aficionados even argue that she could have won championships in IndyCar, and that's got to be worth something, surely. Indeed, she was kind of a Ronda Rousey. You know what I mean? As soon as she rocked up in IndyCar and NASCAR thereafter, I mean, everybody was watching, and a rising tide floats all boats, does it not? That's got to be worth something. But again, as far as a broadcaster, it can be a god-tier peddler and an SH1T broadcaster, right? The two skills are not necessarily analogous. But I digress. Bernie is good value. Levels. Although Bernie often seems a bit disinterested because this is the way she talks. Like when she rocks up on Sky Sports, I'm like, Bernie, I want to hear you. Get a mic. Like if you're on the Sky Sports F1 podcast, surely you can afford £100 mic. These guys are getting paid like big six figures. Well, you can't afford a mic. I think Sky Sports are disrespecting us, you know. I'll end it on this. To see all around the shop. Crofty's commentary, Crofty's call at the Monaco Grand Prix subpar. I give that like a 5 out of 10. Danica Patrick on there. I mean, most of the time, 6 out of 10 at best. Bernie Collins, brilliant expert. Like her mind is god tier. Delivery though, 4 out of 10 again. Like half the time I'm listening to her and I feel like I'm falling asleep. And this is what I pay my £90 for. Rocks up, does Bernie Collins on the Sky Sports F1 podcast. And doesn't even have a mic. Bernie just says, he sounds like this. That's not good enough. If I can put the effort in as an independent broadcaster come YouTuber, then surely Bernie Collins did. But listen, this isn't a knock on. Well, it is kind of a knock on Bernie. Surely Sky Sports can afford to buy Bernie Collins a microphone. That when she's on the Sky Sports F1 podcast, we can all hear and see her expertise, god tier expertise. By the way, Jolien, tell you what, Andre, I'll finish on this. Jolien's levels, he's decent. All I'll say about Jolien is this. The other day I heard him on a podcast say, Toto, the boy who cried wolf. I SH1T you not. And so that's kind of that's coloured the lens through which I see one Jolien Palmer. And he wasn't the best driver, but what do I know about that? Guys, I will see you same time tomorrow. As always, between now and then, remember to look but never stare.